Okay. Good morning, everyone. Really nice to see you all. Hope everyone's having a great week. A little bit of a disappointing result last night for us south of the border, but that's all good. We just keep going and focus on other things in life. So it's great. Well, really happy to have everyone here. I think we'll probably do two more business connects after this one. Before the end of the year. That'll take us to, I think we'll do the third, and then there's two Thursdays we won't do before Chrissy will wrap up, and then we'll communicate to you. We'll probably kick off again some stage into the new year, probably later in January or early February. So just as an FYI, that's sort of what I'm thinking at this stage. Some of the groups, Stu Hawkins, for instance, I'm going to get Stu to say good day in a second. We've met Stu before, but some of the groups, including Stu's group in North Sydney, they actually, off the back of this, they actually jump off and have a coffee together and have a discussion together and debrief it together. And I know at times, sometimes people from different campuses have reached out and said, you know, what could we do? I think that's a really good model if you're wishing to do something. Stu would be a great guy to have a chat to about how they do it. But, you know, they're actively building relationships in that group, praying for each other in that group. And I mean, I just, you know, I very much, my encouragement to everyone is plug into your local campus and build relationship with like-minded people in your local campus. And I think that's the best way you can be building building those type of relationships and you know, praying for each other and doing all that sort of stuff and really bringing strength to your local campus as well. So Stu, that's actually not why I was going to have a quick chat to you this morning, but do you want to quickly unmute and say hello so you pop up for everyone?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah.
Good to see you all here.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Good to be seen and good to see you. You came up in a conversation I was in earlier this week, and I thought I'm very overdue a catch up with that guy. So we'll have to make that happen soon. But Stu, you serve across a number of areas of church. One of them being in the stewardship space with me, and in particular, you help us run Financial Peace University, which is Dave Ramsey's personal finance course. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about your experience with that to date?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, FPU has been. I can see Andrea here right next to me on the screen. FPU has been absolutely amazing. I think I've done it. I forget how many times I've done it now, but it's like for myself personally, every time I do it, you learn something new. And like the people that have come to it, it's just totally changed their lives. It's like this. It's not like just a finance course. It's like its foundation is in stewardship, and it's like super countercultural because it really brings like biblical ideas in. It really is like not the way that we typically do finance in the 21st century. And we've just seen so many people just completely change. They come in like, oh, what's this going to be like? And they come out the other end like, that was amazing. I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, it's cool, hey. And a reason I wanted to, I guess, just highlight this has been happening. I know initially we sort of started it at our Hills campus in Sydney, then our City campus, and I know there's been an incredible crew in Queensland and that grabbed it, started to run it live. And at the moment, we've been doing it online with people from right across Australia. We've had guys from Hobart and Melbourne jumping in. And what's cool, what was kind of neat the other day, I was actually having a coffee with someone that's part of this group, in fact, and someone else from our church walked past and she sort of just got my attention and she said, look, would you mind, could I just grab you for 30 seconds? And was just telling me how, you know, a year ago, in fact, I think one of the absolute catalysts to this story, she said a year or so ago, she'd, you know, come in and had a meeting with Andrew Denton and, you know, really felt challenged. And she was telling me, she goes, someone else had set the meeting up for her. And she was sort of thinking, I don't really know why I'm going into this meeting. And anyway, went into the meeting with Andrew, just really felt challenged and really committed herself to getting debt free. At that stage, she was in, you know, a fair bit of debt. And it was really cool because she was just sharing, going, first of all, that encounter, what sparked an encounter with Andrew, and then me really focusing on, you know, doing something to get rid of my debt and get my finances on track. She goes, it's absolutely changed my life. And it was so cool. She was just like, she couldn't, and I took it as a compliment. She had to interrupt my meeting to come and tell me, like, and I was stoked she did, by the way. And it was just, I could just see the genuine passion and freedom and everything in her eyes. And it sort of just sparked me just to remind everyone on here, I guess, where everyone's here because we're passionate about business and money being crucial to business, and the difference that money can make in the world, in our lives, for the kingdom of God. I think most of us are here because we share that passion as well. And I just wanted to flag again that this is happening, and in 2021 we're going to be, obviously seeing what things look like in church, and we'll take everything in stride and make the most of whatever situation we've got. But this is going to be happening across campuses. So if there's anything you're interested in maybe doing or being involved in, even actually Daniel Flynn, who shared a couple of weeks ago, first sort of encountered Daniel. He came in, did Financial Peace University with us in, I think, term 2 this year. So it was just cool. And I was like, here's a guy who's, successful in business, but really, pursuing to get really good at stewarding his money. So anyway, there's just been some incredible stories come out of it, and just wanted to, I guess, I usually don't like advertise stuff, and it's not really advertising. I just wanted to talk about it's happening, and if maybe you've got a passion to be involved or passion to do it, definitely reach out. Would love to hear from you, and looking forward to just seeing it continue to make an impact in people in our church's lives, which would be cool. So thanks, Stu, for the part you play. You've been crucial to that. Cheers, mate. But this morning I sort of put word out a little bit. Obviously, many of us are very familiar with Andrew, his story. We've either heard Andrew share in church, Andrew Denton, of course I'm talking about. We've either read his book, or maybe you watched yesterday, 3 p.m, you watched him on the Hillsong channel if you've got Foxtel. Anyway, or you might have even heard him share on this format for that matter, or come in for a one-on-one meeting with him. But anyway, a lot of us know Andrew's story. Well, I thought this morning, someone who's pretty crucial to that story and is Andrew's brother, Phill. And I asked Phill to share with us this morning. I'm going to do a little bit of Q&A with Phill. I might get you to say hi, Phill, so you just pop up with everyone. Hi, how are you, mate?
G'day, guys. It's great to be here. Hope you can see my face.
Yeah, we got you. It's an honor to have you, and you are. I think there's, well, how many Denton brothers are there? 4, correct?
Yeah, there's 4 of us. That's correct. I'm the youngest. Andrew is the oldest. There's 2 in between.
Right. So you guys are bookending the brothers.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Are you? So you are, Phill, just for everyone's benefit here, could you maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, I guess, how you sort of just fit into our church world and everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you just a little bit of my history, so that just tells it a little better. So I left school in year 10, became a carpenter apprentice, moved then into being a subcontract carpenter to other builders, got my builder's license, did a bit of building work as well as subcontract work, and built up quite a bit of equity, which was great. Development opportunities came with my brother Andrew, and I just was really ready to grab that with 2 hands. Yes, it had a lot of risk, but I was really keen to go down that path. So I got into the developing world, and that's obviously what I do now. Still, it's a major form of my income. But these days, my current roles of what I do is quite a bit bigger than that. So while that's the main source of my income, I do lots of other things. So the majority of stuff I do, so I'm on the Australian Hillsong board. I'm also on the global board for Hillsong. I'm on the remuneration committees for both Australia and global, the audit and risk committees for Australia and global. Myself and George work together really closely on all our building projects, whether they're in Australia or whether they're around the world. So we assess everything from long-term leases to buys to renos to whatever it is, you know. So we'll be working on something, whether it's in Barcelona, New York, or, you know, looking at something down in Tassie, buying a new building. So yeah, go Kent. So that keeps me fairly busy, that part of it. But I do other roles as well. I help out with my nephew in his building business. I'm the building license behind that. So that keeps me busy with a few things there. I also run a pool business with my brother, Matt. We build pools. So that's something else. I sit on another board of a large builder in Queensland that's in the medical field, commercial builder. So I'm on his board. What else do I do? I've got a Christmas tree farm that I run. And lately I've been doing a bit of consulting work for a few people in their building stuff that they do. So that's something else that I do. So some of those roles are paid, some of them are unpaid. But that's my life at the moment.
Yeah, wow, you're just staying mildly occupied there, Phill.
Surprisingly enough, I still have quite a bit of spare time. So it's
an anonymous, I just got an anonymous tip that you might also be a pool cleaner as well. So anyone Phill around with his shirt off, just
that's it, there it is. Come on.
in his spare time. No, that's incredible, mate. Wow, I didn't. I knew a fair bit of what you do, but definitely not all of it. So, look, you're someone. I mean, because I'm a carpenter builder, and you know, so you're someone I've always watched and looked up to. And in fact, a bit of advice came to me earlier in my career from. It wasn't directly from you, but it was by way of a mutual friend, Scotty McManus.
Yes.
Scotty's a great guy. If anyone knows Scotty, he's if you know Scotty, you definitely know Scotty.
Yep.
He's an incredible guy. He's runs a business in the construction industry as well. But he said to me, possibly he was working with you at that time, or he was just getting his business. He was involved with you somehow. But I remember he said to me that you would always say, look, you know, I'll be knocking up frames for builders and we might finish at 1 p.m. And he goes, and you said, most guys will just go home. They're done for the day. It's maybe a Friday. But you said, I'll go and start my next frame. Like, you're always going for more. You're never just settling for, all right, we're done the job, we're going to knock off. And you're like, well, that's what sets me apart from, I'm able to do this. Most guys are doing this and they're just complaining about this, but they're not willing to kind of step in and do that extra mile. Now, I'm assuming, I don't know if you remember that exact conversation, but I'm assuming that's a principle that's just built into your work ethic, that's guided you. Could you speak to that a little bit, your approach to work in general?
Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you why it is. So yeah, absolutely. I'd work fairly long days when I was back on the tools, and we would work hard and we would get a lot done. And that was the key to really moving ahead. The status quo, the average guy, you know, in the building industry will start at 7:30, finish at 3 o'clock. So, you know, I was always on site 6:30. We wouldn't leave till 5:30. And yeah, if we finished at 3 o'clock, we'd drive to the next job and do something. We'd always work till whenever. We'd work when it was boiling hot, we'd work when it was windy, we'd work when it was raining, we'd work when it was hailing. We just worked all the time. That's just what I did. But it wasn't so much about just working hard. It was about coming up with new systems and new bits and pieces, better ways to do something than the average. And that just accelerates your earning capacity greatly. But the reason behind it, from even when I was a young kid, I mean, I grew up in the church, and it really dropped into my spirit very early, from Colossians 3. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. you know, not for human masters. So whether that was me when I was mowing lawns for the neighbour to earn some dollars or washing someone's car, you know, I wanted to work really hard at it. I wanted to do a great job, and I wanted to do it quickly. Didn't make any difference to how much I got paid mowing the lawn. I got my, whatever it was, $10 to mow someone's lawn. And, but I wanted to do a good job, and I wasn't working for the neighbour, you know, because you do everything you do as though you're doing it under the Lord, you know. And it's interesting because it plays out in the rest of my life. It's when you notice it says whatever you do. It doesn't say whatever work you do. Like anything. If you go for a walk with me in the bush, it won't be a leisurely stroll. You know, I will walk fast. You know, I won't muck around. Doesn't matter what I do it hard. You know, if you want, I love skiing. I love going skiing. But if you're going to come skiing with me, we're going to go quick. You know, so that is built into me from a very young age. And it, like, through my apprenticeship, there was no overtime pay. There was no anything like that. We worked hard. We worked long hours, and it didn't bother me at all because I wasn't working for my boss. You know what I mean? That wasn't in my thinking. My thinking was that I'm working for God and everything counts. He sees it all. He sees all the overtime. He sees the sweat. He sees all the rest of it, and it's fine, you know, because life's longer than just that moment, you know. So yeah, I do encourage people like Scotty and others to go the extra mile, to make the bigger effort, you know, because it's not about everything in God's economy comes back to you, you know. So one of the other things that that drove me is another scripture that, again, just growing up in a Christian household. It's just in Proverbs. Do you see a man skillful and experienced in his work? In the Amplified, it says, he will stand, in brackets, in honor before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. And I mean, look, let's face it, very few of us can ever be kings in this world, but we can work for them, or we can work alongside them, you know. And this proverb gives us some direction of how we could possibly get there, you know. So I was keen to get skillful at whatever I did, get experience, you know, do the right things, and over time, you'll be able to, you'll stand in the right places and have the right influence, you know. So that was another big factor.
Yeah, wow, that's actually been, I think, that proverb 22:29 has been a iconic, you know, that's been one of the verses that I think has guided me my entire career. So I was stoked to hear you say that. Really connected. Well, I guess really, yeah, on the same page there, Phill. And it's kind of cool because Scotty, I guess you installed that into Scotty, and he's, you know, he's someone that I watch him work and I'm inspired to, you know, I think he just embodies that. So pretty awesome. And as I said, that advice to me came through Scotty, and it was something that has just always stuck with me. So really cool to finally hear your perspective on it.
Very good.
But how did, obviously, and you shared really briefly there, you and Andrew have been in business together, and because of that, you've been able to do some incredibly generous things in regards to sowing into the kingdom, and many of us have heard those stories. But when was it for you that you really got a passion to finance the work of the church? Was there a crucial moment where sort of lights went on, or was that something you grew into?
I would say it's probably more growing into it than any particular point. So obviously, you know, growing up in a Christian household, tithing and giving was just pretty normal. That wasn't anything special. That was just, okay, that's what you do, you know. You know, I try to do that example to my own children, that this is not like you're doing something amazing. This is just normal life. And I've been at Hillsong forever, 30-something years. And I remember back to before we had Kingdom Builders and our first big fundraising thing, and I was an apprentice at the time. And I committed to give, whatever dollars it was. It was a lot to me at the time, but it wasn't very much money. And that was probably the start of, me looking at stuff over and above normal tithes and offerings, and it was really poorly run. It was terrible. We were hopeless at it, we got in an external guy from America to come and do fundraising. He was supposed to be the expert, but he wasn't much good. But we did, as a church, we raised a lot of funds, and it was really good. So that's probably the start of it, I'd say.
Yeah, wow. And I look at you as being a really good example of someone that's accomplished in business, and I guess you're just very involved there, but you shared some of the ways you participate in church life as well. And I speak to a lot of business people, and they feel vocationally called to be building business or working corporately or whatever that might be, but they have this urge to be hands-on and urge to really be serving and sowing, but they're just not sure how that fits. Or you seem to have done it really well, because you seem to be contributing in ways that align with some of the skill sets you've built, and you're really adding value. And I'm not trying to devalue maybe someone that stands on the door and shakes hands, but you're at all by any means, because I know some incredible people here that do that faithfully and joyfully. But how have you sort of ended up in the place? I guess what I'm saying is, I know a lot of people that would love to serve at a level similar to you, or use their skill sets to build the house of God. How has that come about for you? And maybe what advice would you have for us if that was a desire of ours?
Yeah, for sure. I think keeping things in perspective as to what's God's story, because it's not actually our story, and I think that's really important, because we can get disappointed if we don't achieve our goals of where we want to hit certain things, when we're talking about church or leadership or where we're going, So if we start from the point of view of everything counts in God's economy. So whether we're shaking hands on the front door or picking up chairs or doing any of that sort of stuff, I think that counts just as much as sitting on the board and speaking into some big matter, in God's economy. You know what I mean? In our thinking, it doesn't, but I think how do you get there? I think they're the building blocks. You know what I mean? I think you have to be seen to be consistent in the small stuff to get to the big stuff. If you want to skip over all that, if you just want to say, well, I'm not going to shake hands on the door, I just want to go straight to this position, it just doesn't work like that. Like I was in the church for, 20 years before I got asked to come on the board. I mean, that's a long time. I can't tell you how many connect groups I led and how many things I did and what involved. And my giving, I've been given since I was a little tacker, like 15. So there was a lot of serving there before I got all those roles, and you can't despise that stuff, you really can't. And I still think it has the same value today. I'll give you an example. I was negotiating some stuff for church on a particular building project we were doing. And on that day, two things happened. I managed to negotiate for the church a $2 million better outcome on the property development we did. So we had a position, and at the end of the negotiation, we were $2 million better off, which is fantastic. It's great for the church. It's awesome. On that same day, on the way to that meeting, I pulled over on the side of the road and I helped a lady change a flat tire. And I think they both have the same value. I know that seems strange and thinking, but that's what God wanted me to do at the time. And I was available and I said I'd do it. So at the end of the day, we just got to do what God asks us to do at that particular time. You know, I mean, God gave me the skills to negotiate the $2 million better outcome. I was available at the time to change the flat tire. I just did what God asked me to do. Like in God's, I reckon they're the same. I reckon they equal the same, you know? So if you just do what's in your hand at the time, then that'll take you forward.
Yeah, wow. I love that, mate. Just so much sound advice there. Phill, I feel like, yeah, every sentence in answer to that was just absolute gold. Thank you. And I wanted to ask, you mentioned there, obviously, whatever you're doing in the moment, whatever you believe God's asking you to do in that moment is the right thing to do. No doubt there'll be many examples of this throughout your career, but could you maybe share a time or two when you felt like what was being asked of you in a faith sense was just didn't make sense naturally, or maybe it wasn't the best business move as per the numbers? Or has there been times like that where you've had to really take a faith step? It seems very unnatural. No doubt there would have been times like this. Can you think of an example you might be able to share with us when you've done that and how that journey sort of played out for you?
Yeah. Well, I think in business, we all know that cash is king, and if you're trying to grow a business, it's really hard to even pull money out for your own personal benefit, because you always want to plow it back in to the next project or getting the bigger thing or doing that. So the whole idea of giving large whacks of money to the church is a very difficult concept in business, because you're pulling it out of your cash flow, and that's just not an easy thing to do. It doesn't matter. Every time you have to do it, you're making some form of sacrifice, or you're doing something, and that's where the rubber really hits the road, if you can do that, and I know over the years we've had really strong years and we've had really lean years, and not just years, multiple years on top of each other. There's been years where Andrew and I have not only not drawn a wage, but every week we've put money back into the business. So negative wages, and not just for a week or a month, but like 18 months straight, So all you can do is just take your own cash or equity and just plow it back into the business, But in those years, we still gave to kingdom builders. We still tithed on our wages we didn't get. Like it's a bit unusual, but we just felt convicted to do that. So our tithing was, and I'm not recommending this to people, but it's just given an example. To us, we would have to dip into our own personal equity and write a tithe check, and the same thing when it came to kingdom builders. Now our dollar amount changed. So we were giving less, absolutely, but we still gave something because we were committed to it. This is what we do. We do kingdom builders. We're going to give something. Every year it's a decision what we can give. And some years you're giving out of a lot. Some years you're giving out of a little, but stay consistent, commit to it, keep doing it. And in the long run, it all comes back.
Yeah, wow. For you personally, Phill, how do you just stay fresh? How do you keep a fresh spirit? How do you keep just, I guess, even when you were describing earlier days, which it's not like, well, definitely your work ethic hasn't changed and definitely more has come onto your plate now. But in the midst of all of that, how do you keep yourself fresh? And how does that even, could you maybe, as part of answering this, share how that flows into your marriage and your family and your life and everything else you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. I think like most things, you grow in life through your struggles and your bits and pieces, and you realize that things that go wrong are not the end. It's just a season, and you're going to get through it. So when you're unfresh, it's your attitude really, isn't it? And it's how you see the future. And if you're a faith person, a positive thinking, or if you're negative, then it's very hard to stay fresh. If you're in the doldrums and everything's just going terrible and there's never going to be a solution, and you're not going to be very fresh at that point. And I think the other side to it is, especially in church life, it's easy to get offended. I know my brother Andrew speaks about being unoffendable. So some practical things to that is you've got to expect people to let you down. We're just people. We all make mistakes, and if your thinking is aligned with those scriptures where you're not working for people, you're not working for your local pastor or your lead pastor or even Brian, at the end of the day, you're doing your work for Jesus, and he sees all that you do. He sees the dramas and why did that person do that? And, but if that's who you're working for, then you're fine, because he's the ultimate boss. He sees everything. He knows the truth, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Wow. That the perspective is just so powerful. I think that's definitely a big takeaway. An incredible reminder for myself personally. What advice would you have? Obviously, just as you came on, you noticed, one of the members of this group was in a school uniform. Like, there's a lot of with people of all ages here, but even for young people just getting started, maybe unsure, like they want to do business, just not quite sure. And to be honest, I don't just have these conversations with younger people in school uniform. I have combos sometimes with people in their 40s, and they're just not quite sure what they're going to get stuck into, and I'm in an hour and trying this, trying that.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to someone that just maybe doesn't know what direction they're supposed to go in? What would you say to them?
I would say that I always encourage people to back themselves. No one really is going to think more about your business or your idea than you. I mean, you can share it with me and I can point some stuff out, but at the end of the day, you'll lie awake at night and think about how you're going to strategize and how you're going to move from here to, well, you should be lying awake at night thinking about how you're going to strategize and move from here to there. And, it should be on your mind if you're wanting to start a business, because they're not easy. They're difficult. There's lots of problems. There's lots of challenges, but if you're willing to think about it and work through it and get some advice, and then I say, back yourself and do it. You got to jump in. You got to give it a go. You got to give it a go and work out what's the worst case scenario. Like, actually work through it and think, well, what's the worst thing that can happen here? I have to go back to my other job in 18 months' time. I'm going to lose 30 grand starting something. It's not the end. But then think on the other hand, well, what's the upside? And hopefully that then encourages you to jump in and give it a shot. There's so many people in our church world and in the rest of our lives where we can ask advice. Just ask as much advice as you can, and ask it from 3, 4, 5, 10 different people, not to just get the answer you want to hear, but just to get the different perspectives, So, I mean, some simple advice that I've given people over the years is, don't leave that job until you got another job to go to, because you want your money to keep flowing. If you can start your business while you still got your other full-time job until it's at a stage where it can afford to pay you and you're actually turning coin, then do that. Now, that might mean working 80 hours a week for 2 years, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes, So there is some very simple, practical advice where you can de-risk what you want to jump in and do. I mean, look, the property game is a risky game, but Andrew and I just make sure that we've got those risks covered. Like anything in property, and Kent will tell you this, if you can hold the property and never be forced to sell it, you'll make money one day. I mean, Tasmania is a classic example of that. It can be dead for 10 years, like seeing nothing, no growth whatsoever. And you're like, I'm hanging on. And they can double in value. And it's like, wow, boy, I'm glad I bought that 10 years ago, you know, but it wasn't for that 10 years. It was a hard work, you know, it was a slog. But so if you can work out where your risks are at, work out what your worst case scenario is and how you're going to cover that off, then, you know, I would just encourage you to go for it.
Yeah, great advice. Very, very sound advice, Phill. Thank you. And look, I know Andrew's he's awesome with his habits. Like, he's very much a habits guy, routine guy. And you know, obviously there's so much power in that. Are you similar that way? Are you sort of wired similarly, or?
I mean, I think we've all got our routines. All of us do similar things, you know. We probably all have similar breakfast most mornings, you know what I mean? So there are certainly habits that you do. I mean, there's great family habits. I get really surprised when I have people over to my place and you hear that they didn't eat dinner together as a family. They didn't sit down at whatever time, you know, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever your family dinner time is, and you all sit around and you have a meal. And it might only be 20 minutes. But I'm just like so blown away that people live their whole lives and didn't do that, you know? And I just think, how do you build connection in your family? Just that's that simple practice of having a meal together, you know, and it's a priority, you know, that's what you do, you know? And you just, as your kids get older and they've got busier lives, they're still just working around that and saying, okay, we'll get there for dinner, you know? And that changes. And I know for my brother Andrew, he'll have, you know, he might have a Sunday lunch or a Monday night dinner where the whole family will come back together, you know? And that's just a continuation of that same practice. So, yeah, I think you want to have some of those disciplines in life that are building long-term outcomes, you know? I mean, the discipline of going to the gym every morning, like Andrew, I don't do that, but that's what Andrew does. It's fantastic. You know what I mean? So I go walking with my wife and we take the dog and we'd go twice a day. Every day I go walking twice a day, morning and night, you know? So when I'm finished here, Mel was asking me when we be finished. Oh, I don't know, sometime after 8. Okay, we're going for a walk then? Yep. So that's what I'm doing, you know? So, and tonight we'll be out going for a walk somewhere, you know? So there's some things I do that's just time where you're not on your phone, you're not distracted by the television, you're not distracted by anything else, because you're out there walking with your wife and you can just talk about so much stuff. And it's every day you get to talk. Things don't build up for weeks or months, or because you can just talk about it all, you know? So that's a good habit.
Yeah, I love that, mate. It's so cool. I love the dinner, you know, having dinner together as a family. It's always been an intentional routine of ours. So, yeah. Phill, I'll get you in just a moment to pray for us. Any parting words of advice? Obviously, you know, this year's been a crazy year. We're all just, you know, full of anticipation and curiosity about what's next. Any final words of advice? I guess we're sort of coming into December soon. It doesn't need to be specifically geared towards this year, but in general, to this group, you sort of know who we are, what we're, you know, doing, wishing to do in church. Any parting words of wisdom for us?
Well, I think when it comes to church, I'll just reiterate and just remember who you're serving, and then you won't be as offended by people, because it's really easy, you know, because we're just people. So that's probably the easiest thing to remember in church life. Remember who you're serving. In the business world, and we've heard it before, but what does it mean? Think hard. You don't need to work hard, or do both, which is even better, you know. And what does think hard mean? And what does work on your business mean, as opposed to work in your business? What does that mean? When people say these catchphrases, it sounds great, but what does that mean? And that means that you've got to be able to stand back and assess what are the critical points in your business. What are the drivers? Okay, so obviously income is the driver of all businesses. We've got to get money in the door, you know, but how does it get in the door? How can you get more of it in the door? You know, how can you control your costs? What are the driving key points? What's the critical path? Because people just get lost in doing what you do. This is what I do. I always do this, I do this, I do this. It's just repeating the same thing, you know? So you've got to have that ability to see what the real picture is, assess where the problems are, and make some decisions to change it. You should be always making decisions. Should be always, that's obviously you saw all the stuff that I told you, all the things that I get involved in. A lot of those things would take up most of a day if you wanted them to, you know, but I don't have that many days in the week, you know? So you've got to be really quick at assessing, making decisions and moving on. So that's something that you've got to think outside the box and make your assessments quickly.
Great. Again, so much great advice, Phill. Thank you, mate. I really, really do. I guess on behalf of everyone here, thank you for carving out the time this morning and just dropping so much wisdom. I think just even hearing from your life for me is just personally so inspiring. I wonder if everyone, if you could just maybe, if you want to drop some appreciation in the chat or do a little clap emoji or even just give a physical clap on the screen. Thank Phill.
Guys,
appreciate everything, mate. And thanks for all you do for our church. I mean, I know, you know, for all of us, it's just, it gives me confidence knowing there's people like you in the mix that are just helping navigate us forward as in everything that you do. I know a lot of people here are probably unaware that they're worshiping in venues, well, hopefully soon, worshiping in venues that you might have played an instrumental role in helping bring that about. So, mate, we greatly appreciate you. Thank you.
No worries. Happy. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was great, actually. So thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Could you pray for us as we close?
Yeah, absolutely. Father, I just thank you for this group of people. I thank you that they are committed to this, Father. They're committed to learning. They're committed to hearing from godly people about how to build their businesses and how to build their lives, Father. God, I just pray that you will put courage in them, courage to step out, courage to step up, courage to understand that you've got their back and that you want to see them blessed, Father. God, just may they have an awesome day. Amen.
Amen. Thanks again, Phill. Enjoy your walk with Mel.
Yes,
that's a good one.
Will do.
Be blessed, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you online.
No worries.